So I've been a horse girl for my whole life. It builds character to get bullied, so I don't hold too much of a grudge against my parents for allowing that to happen. But when I was younger, it was a lot worse. It was my entire identity, to the point that I left high school after my junior year so that I could work for an Olympic horseback rider. And when that didn't work so well, I went on to work for a horseback rider who'd been shortlisted for the Olympics, which is almost as good. And I continued to work for her even after I'd started college. And so the summer between my freshman and sophomore year of college, I was going to compete internationally for the first time. I was going all the way to Canada. And so I show up the morning that we're due to leave for Canada, and it was pretty normal for us to load up in the dark and get on the road. So I got there around 3 a.m., and I was the first one there. I had to get my horse ready as well as my boss's 3 horses that she'd be taking up. And so I flip on the lights, and anybody who's a pet person knows that when you surprise your animals awake, they do that blinking thing that's so dramatic and makes you feel terrible that you were the one that shocked them awake. So I look down the aisle, and I'm looking at my horses' faces, and mine's awake, and the other 2 are awake. The last one isn't opening his eye. Shit. He's the shortlisted for the Olympics horse. He's the one who needs to go up and get this competition done. So I call my boss, who has this funny habit of rolling in just 5 minutes before we're supposed to get on the road. So she calls the vet, and the vet, bless her, is there within 10 minutes. And the vet says, here's what we're going to do. When you get up to Canada, the vets will be waiting for you with a serum for his eye. But in the meantime, the whole way up, what I want you to do is alternate 10 minutes hot compress, 10 minutes cold compress, 10 minutes off. The whole way to Quebec from Pennsylvania. And so we load up the horses. It's still dark. It's 4 in the morning now. And my boss says, on you go. So we make a little chair out of hay bales, and I'm in the trailer, which is basically a metal death trap on wheels, all the way up to Canada. And I gotta say, it wasn't really a very fun ride. It's pretty disorienting to be in a horse trailer on the highway. And at some point, my phone died, and so I had no concept of where we were, or even what time it was, or how long it had been since I'd spoken to a human. And as much as I love horses, they're not the best conversationalists, so there was a lot of me looking at them and them looking at me, and that went on for 12 hours until we got to the border. And so I got the sense that we were pulling up to the border as we, slowed down. There's kind of a bottleneck when you get to the crossing. And I think to myself, surely my boss is going to bring me into the truck for the border crossing. But she doesn't. And so this part of the story I wasn't present for. I have to retell what was told to me as the conversation between my boss and the crossing guard. Ma'am, do you have anything except for horses with you? Oh, yeah, I have a girl back there. What? She backpedals. Sorry, yeah, she's taking care of a sick horse. What? This is the agriculture crossing, so while human trafficking's kind of bad, bringing a virus from the US into Canada is much, much worse. And so she backpedals again. She says, sorry, he's not actually sick, he's just hurt. The next thing I know, the door to the horse trailer is opening, and there's this burly crossing guard at the Canadian border who says, you need to get out right now. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be detained, and I'm going to have to call my parents to come have some immigration lawyer come save me from the border. I'm 19, so this is one of the most traumatic things to happen to me at this point, but it doesn't last long. He lets me off with a slap on the wrist, he looks at my passport, and he lets me get back in the truck. So, me being 19, you might think that my boss should have thought better of this, and she should have. She should have known better than to pull up to the border crossing with a human in her horse trailer. That's common sense. But when I look back on this story, I have to be a little bit critical of myself, because we didn't even make it back onto the highway before my boss pulled over, opened up the horse trailer, and said, get back in. And I didn't even question her. What was I thinking?